President Trump was told by the Attorney General that he is in the Jeffrey Epstein files. He was told he was in the files 2 months ago, and then last week said, no, he wasn't. He was. This was during a briefing on the findings of the Justice Department's review of the documents related to Epstein. That's according to sources familiar with the discussion. Those sources said the Justice Department's review found that the files appeared to include several unsubstantiated claims that they determined not to be credible, including those relating to Trump. Bondi also raised in the meeting that several names of other high-profile figures were mentioned, the official said. And it's worth noting that being mentioned in the files does not in any way indicate wrongdoing. The Wall Street Journal, who first reported this story, said that AG Bondi, who was joined in the briefing by her deputy Todd Blanche, who previously served as President Trump's attorney in the criminal hush money trial. The briefing took place in May, weeks before the Justice Department released a memo on July 6th.
A couple of months ago, the Attorney General informed President Trump that his name had appeared in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Fast forward to last week, and Trump is now saying, no way, not in those files. But the reality is that his name actually is in them. This information came out during a briefing related to the Justice Department's review of documents connected to Epstein. Sources familiar with the details said that while many claims appeared in the files, a large number of them were deemed unsubstantiated and not credible. That included claims related to Trump. Attorney General Pam Bondi noted during the meeting that several other notable names were mentioned as well. Here's an important point. Just because someone's name appears in the files does not necessarily mean they did anything wrong. The Wall Street Journal was the first to report this story, detailing how Bondi was joined by her deputy, Todd Blanche, who previously served as Trump's attorney during the hush money trial. This briefing took place in May, well before the Justice Department released its memo on July 6th. Now, consider this. You are the Attorney General of the United States. Your primary duty is to uphold justice, represent the people, and enforce the law, not to protect the president or hide evidence. Congress passes a law with overwhelming bipartisan support requiring that all Epstein files be made public. The goal is full transparency, making everything searchable so the American public can see who is connected to one of the most notorious sex traffickers in history. A clear 30-day deadline is set to release the files, but the deadline is missed. The documents that are released are heavily redacted, and much of the information was already publicly available. When Congress asks questions, the Justice Department admits that more than 500 people are reviewing the files, deciding what can be released and what must remain hidden. At that point, it becomes clear to anyone paying attention. This is not an effort to make the files public. It's the opposite, an attempt to bury them and protect someone. And that someone, it appears, is Donald Trump. It seems Bondi has effectively acknowledged that the Justice Department is shielding Trump by covering up the Epstein files. But there's more to this story.
Attempting to close the book on Jeffrey Epstein, which said, quote, no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That memo kicked up a furor in the president's supporters, among them, that continues to this day. CNN reached out to the White House about the Journal report. Their response read in part, this is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats in the liberal media. That was their response. But we now know the president was told he was in the files, which he was specifically asked about last week.
What did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No. She's given us just a very quick briefing.
No, he says. We asked the Justice Department for reaction to the reporting. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy AG Todd Blanche, the two officials in that Trump briefing, according to the Wall Street Journal, they released a statement.
There has been renewed discussion surrounding Jeffrey Epstein after a memo stated that no further disclosure was appropriate or warranted. That memo sparked significant backlash among President Trump supporters and remains a major topic of debate. When CNN asked the White House for comment, the response was predictable. The administration dismissed the reporting as fake news pushed by Democrats and the liberal media. However, it later emerged that President Trump had already been informed that his name appeared in the Epstein files, something he was directly questioned about. When asked what had been revealed during the briefing, the response was vague, describing it as only a general overview. The Justice Department was then pressed to comment, confirming that Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche were present at the briefing with Trump. According to the Wall Street Journal, both later issued a statement on the matter. Here's where the situation becomes critical. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act with overwhelming bipartisan support, 427 to 1 in the House and unanimous consent in the Senate. Trump himself signed the bill into law. The statute requires the Department of Justice to release all Epstein-related files in a searchable public database within 30 days. The intent was clear: transparency. The American public was meant to see who had connections to Epstein, who flew on his planes, who visited his properties, and who participated in his network. Instead, the opposite occurred. Pam Bondi missed the 30-day deadline and later released what she called Part 1 of the files. The release was underwhelming, largely consisting of already public court documents and press clippings. Nothing new, nothing substantive. It appeared to be little more than a public relations effort designed to create the appearance of compliance. More troubling was Bondi's admission in federal court that more than 500 DOJ personnel were assigned to review the Epstein materials. Multiple sources later reported that these reviewers were working overtime to flag and redact references to Donald Trump. This is not transparency. It looks like a coordinated effort to conceal information. Representative Dan Goldman took notice and sent a formal letter to Bondi expressing serious concerns that the Justice Department was deliberately stalling and potentially obstructing the release of the files, possibly at Trump's direction. Goldman cited reports that FBI agents were instructed to specifically identify and redact any mention of Trump, reminding Bondi that her duty is to the American people, not to protect the president from political or legal consequences. Adding to the gravity of the situation, a secretly recorded conversation later surfaced in which Bondi stated that the DOJ possesses tens of thousands of videos involving Epstein, including material depicting child sexual abuse. While protecting victims is unquestionably necessary, Bondi appears to be using those legitimate concerns as a shield to justify withholding politically damaging information. When Bondi testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee, she refused to answer basic questions about how often Trump's name appears in the files or who ordered his name to be flagged for redaction. Instead, she deflected, attacked Democrats, and avoided direct answers, behavior that only intensified concerns. Legal pressure has continued to mount. Democracy Docket has filed lawsuits demanding enforcement of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, while courts have begun questioning the DOJ's delays. Members of Congress are openly discussing contempt proceedings, noting that Bondi is not merely missing deadlines, but violating federal law, specifically a statute Trump himself signed. The law is straightforward. It requires full disclosure of Epstein-related files within 30 days, a searchable database, and an unredacted list of officials and influential figures referenced in the materials to be provided to Congress. The deadline passed on December 19, 2025. Nothing was delivered. Bondi claimed the delay was due to the sheer volume of documents. But her own court filings revealed that more than 500 reviewers were already assigned. That scale suggests not routine review, but aggressive scrubbing. Standard transparency compliance does not require hundreds of personnel or months of delay, unless there is something significant to hide. Multiple reports indicate that FBI agents were tasked with identifying and redacting every reference to Trump, emails, flight logs, photographs, and correspondence before any release. That is not standard procedure. That is targeted protection. Evidence already made public, including emails referencing Trump's awareness of Epstein's activities and flight logs showing Trump flew with Epstein more often than previously acknowledged, suggests a far closer relationship than Trump has admitted. And those disclosures likely represent only a fraction of what remains sealed. The issue is no longer just Trump's past association with Epstein. It is the present-day effort to conceal evidence using the machinery of government. Obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and misuse of federal resources are not historical allegations. They are ongoing actions. Pam Bondi's conduct has drawn increasing scrutiny. Each court filing and congressional appearance has forced additional admissions. Judges are signaling impatience. Congress is escalating oversight. The delays, deflections, and mass redactions have only made the cover-up more visible. In the end, the situation boils down to this. Innocent people do not require 500 government employees to erase their names from public records. They do not miss legal deadlines, defy Congress, or weaponize victim protection to block transparency. Those are the actions of someone with something substantial to hide. This story is far from over. Pressure from courts, Congress, journalists, and the public continues to build. More information will come out. And when it does, the effort to conceal the truth may prove more damaging than the truth itself.